Hello, everyone. My name is Steven. I'm the owner of Axe Property Management. Today, I'm going to go over our property management agreement. I'm going to try going over this as thoroughly, but also be conscientious of your time because I know that our management agreement is a little bit long. And so our management agreement is roughly 17 pages without the signing pages. And so I want to kind of go over why it is as long as it is. There's two ways of writing a contract when it comes to being an owner of a company. There is one way which brings clarity, which is the way and direction that we chose to go. The other direction is to kind of give vagueness, but make things easier and simplify things as the owner. Now, if you are looking at other management agreements and you see one that is 3 pages long versus ours that's 17 pages long, you may feel more comfortable with the 3 page one because it's not as intimidating. The problem with that is it also creates vagueness with the relationship that you have with that property manager. And so that is why when we decided to write this contract, we want to be very clear about our intentions and what we are authorized and what we are not authorized to do. So just want to start that with you. The first page is pretty standard. It talks about who you are, the date, what kind of property you have, and your location of your property or multiple properties you have. Also gives you our management agreement, our management company's name, as well as our management license number with the Department of Real Estate. Next, we're going to talk about leasing. So in this section is where it talks about what we do as leasing, as property managers in the leasing space, how managers are authorized to approve, execute, and deliver like lease renewals on the owner's behalf. Managers will have the ability to create a standardized lease form, and we'll be able to do things that are ordinary and necessary for a manager to complete operations. Next is security deposits. And so here we clearly define this is more of legal verbiage and things that you as a landlord also have to do, whether you hire a property manager or whether you don't. Security deposits are super important. In California, you must have the tenant security deposits that are not commingled, meaning they can't be held with other funds. A lot of landlords will hold the deposit with their operating expenses, so their mortgage and things like that. That is incorrect. You have to make sure that the tenant's security deposit is held in a separate account and it is not commingled with any other funds. The other thing is in many cities, including the city of Los Angeles, but there's other cities like that, you have to give the tenants accrual of interest. Right now, the interest that the tenants have, I know sounds crazy. Some of you guys are shocked. It's real. You should look it up. In the city of Los Angeles right now, it's just above 2% that you have to give the tenants on interest on their security deposit. So in here, we talk about these things. If the owner still wants to hold the security deposit, we have no problem with that. We'll send you addendum to sign. Just understand, and you're going to see this a lot in our management agreement. Anytime you as the landlord choose to take more control, you're also increasing liability. The more control that we have, the more liability that you're giving to us. So make no mistake, if you want to take on that liability, I will gladly give it to you as the manager of the company. I just want to make sure and ensure that you are aware that you are increasing your risk and your liability by holding these. Next is key safes and lock boxes. We do use lock boxes on quite a few of our rental properties to ensure that we can show the properties quickly. Our lock boxes are geo-tracked and timestamped, so not everyone can just get into the rental property itself to do a showing. You have to have the phone that was used to get the showing to be done. That phone has to have a picture of your ID and your face next to your ID. So you'll be like holding an ID card next to your face and show, and we can three-way reconcile the fact that that person is the person that wanted to do the showing itself. So very secured platform for us, but from time to time we do the lock boxes, so that's why the addendum is there. We also don't list your properties on the MLS. Why don't we list the property on the MLS? Because real estate agents typically want a commission. And with our management fee being $1,200 currently at this time, they're going to be asking for a lot more. So we don't list on the MLS. If you'd like us to, we can absolutely do that. Just know that you will maybe pay more in leasing fees to the tenant's agent. Qualifications for tenants. This is just us being honest with you and saying that we will investigate everything from criminal, eviction, credit, and rental history on the application forms to make sure that there's, good credit. We'll do a thorough screening of it to make sure that that tenant is the highest quality tenant we can possibly find. In addition to that, we also will make sure that we do like interviews with the current landlords, the current place of work. We also do a video recording of where that tenant lives. I think that's the best way of seeing what history repeats itself. So if the tenant currently has a good, nice, neat home, when they rent your property, it should look the same. So we do that as well. Authority and duty to enforce the lease. We are your property management company. You are hiring us to make sure that we are able to do that. So in here, we are stating that we have the authority to make necessary procurement of your lease, whether if you state that there is, no pets are allowed and there's a pet, you're giving us the ability to enforce the lease. Of course, you will be notified every step of the way. Authority to receive and service process notice or demand. If the tenants are late on rent after the 5th, we do send a process server out. So you're letting us doing that. And service animals. This is a law. This isn't something that we put in. Fair housing laws are very important in the state of California. And so we have to follow all fair housing and HUD rules. And so if someone has an emotional support animal, a true emotional support animal that they have licensed and documented, that is something that we cannot deny someone to rent the property for. Just something to know. Again, this is a law. This isn't our standard operating procedure. Operations and maintenance. So this is a big one. Now, if you're at this point, you've spoken to one of our team members or me personally, and you know that we reach out to you for every single maintenance request that happens on your property. And we want to get your approval before we start any work. What you will see in the language here is that there are plenty of circumstances where we do, as property managers, need to have the ability to go in and maintain your property. Let's say you're on vacation on a cruise and you lose cell phone reception for 6 days. I legally need the ability to go in and fix issues of habitability. That is something that you should be expecting of your property management company. And so here is where we clearly state that we have the ability to go ahead and take care of any kind of habitability issues or something that could be an immediate danger to life and health. Then you will see later on, and I'll kind of go into this in more detail. So it says, for those items which owners request additional bids that in agent's sole discretion are likely to cost less than $500, there will not be let out for additional bids, and the agent shall be under no duty to solicit bids for those items, but will provide a qualified vendor at that time. What this means is we will reach out to you on a maintenance request and see if you have someone, a preferred vendor to work with, whether it's your vendor or our own preferred vendor. We will then address and say to you, hey, our not to exceed budget will be $500 at that time. The reason why we have a not to exceed budget is, let me give you an example where the handyman goes out to the property and a garbage disposal needs to be fixed. And the handyman goes back to Home Depot. They get the necessary items. They inform us that it's going to cost $260 to repair the garbage disposal. That's well within industry standards. And so if we don't have the $500 not to exceed budget, the handyman would then have to sit there and wait for us to get a hold of you as a landlord. And that time frame can take sometimes hours because you're busy. And so because of that, we do want to have some discretion that if it's reasonable and ordinary for us to do something like, a clogged toilet is typically $90 to $100 to fix, a receptacle is typically $100 to $200 to fix. Those kind of things, you should, for the sake of giving you a good price on maintenance and not having to have that vendor come out a second time and charge you a trip charge, to be able to do things that are $500 or less. Again, you will be informed every single time when a maintenance request needs to be done. You'll also be informed every single time what the charge is. However, getting authority on things that are $500 or less is just a little challenging with life. Life happens and you guys can be in meetings. And so our contractors are not just going to sit at Home Depot for a few hours until you're available. So that's where it's discussed, is that. Services and utilities, we sometimes get questions about this. The only thing I can think of in a contract, because this isn't written by me by hand, this is like a standardized management agreement, is pest control. Let's say that you have a cockroach problem or a rat problem. And so we can provide the ability to do those services on your behalf up to $1,500. Again, you have the authority to say yes or no. You also have the authority to make sure that you're informed of these items. The reason why we have to have the ability to do these things is it's a habitability concern. Let's say for whatever reason, there's no electricity in the tenant's home and you are responsible for paying for that electricity, or rodents rats are a habitability issue, you're gone on vacation, we have to start and have to at least initiate that ability to get those services started. And then we can kind of, once you reach out to us, discuss what the next steps are. Legal and accounting services, we do collect the rent, so we'll be handling accounting. Taxes, the owner, you want to be reaching out to your CPA to discuss any kind of tax advice or anything like that. Owner performed repairs. If you would like to do a repair yourself, you must let us know ahead of time. We get into situations that are a little sticky when the tenants are calling us and they're saying, "Oh my gosh, someone's breaking into my house." And we're like, "Okay, call the cops." And we reach out to the owner, we're like, "Hey, did you let someone know, do you have a maintenance request that you're going over the property?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, we have Sam going to check the roof." And to avoid those kind of situations, we put it in there that, you should notify the property management company anytime you have someone going to the property to protect everyone. And obviously, if you are sending out your own vendor, all of our vendors are licensed, contracted, licensed, bonded, and insured, and they are also vetted by us. If you're sending your own handyman out and they are deciding to do electrical work when they're not licensed, again, you want that control, you're going to increase your liability. So that's what it talks about here. Collections. So we will do every reasonable effort to collect rental income from the property. Remember, I don't get paid until you get paid. So we are in a mutual agreement here to make sure the rent gets paid as quickly and as fast as possible. Security deposit. This is kind of where it talks about an analyzed trust account. So it talks about what we do for you. So the security deposit is held in a analyzed trust account. It's being held and reconciled by a third-party accounting firm. That is what our requirements are by the state of California as a property management company. And so we'll provide those services for you. Income disbursement. And so this is how we handle the income disbursement. Now, this is if you've received income. So if income has been received, first compensation to the management company is paid so we can continue to help service and allocate the costs that we have managing your property. Then other expenses are dispersed as far as like maintenance requests and things like that. Finally, if there are reserves that the property holds, currently, we don't have reserves that we request from landlords, but sometimes management companies will hold reserves for you. That would be replenished. And then finally, the balance to the owner. More than likely, the way it's going to work is, rent is $3,000. We take our management fee, you get sent $2,800. But just so we can be clear again and not be vague, this is how the process works. Another big one for California is the Franchise Tax Board 7%. So those of you who live out of state, this is a rule whether you go with us as a management company or another property management company, or you decide to manage it yourself. The Franchise Tax Board does require you to send them 7% of the gross monthly rent to them. You need to do it every single quarter. So if you are living anywhere outside of the state, then we are required to withhold 7%. Now, if you do have an address in the state of California that you are stating that you live in, you can send us that, and then there are no issues. So let's be clear about that. Also, if you are a foreign investor, we don't deal with this much, but again, this is standardized management agreement. I can explain it. The IRS makes you require 30% of gross rents. That's if you are not a US citizen. So you'd be non-US citizen, 30%. When do we send out monthly owner statements? So we send your monthly owner statements in the portal on the 10th of each month or whichever day comes earlier. So if the 10th falls on a Saturday, we'll send it to you on the 9th. You will also see it on the owner portal as well. Tenants can make their rent payment via credit card, personal check, cashier's check, money order, or online ACH transfers. Obviously, this is one of the benefits of going with us as a management company. We are requesting here your owner ACH routing number and check accounting number, and you can place them both here. The reason is we want to make sure that you get paid, so please put those in there. Owners ask all the time, what if I want to change it? No problem. You can call our office, let us know, and we'll have it changed immediately. Accounting record and reporting. We will keep accounting and record keeping of your property, your income, and your expenses, and make sure that that is all taken care of and sent to you on the 10th of each month. Delinquent tenant and rent arrear fees. So we've started charging this because we don't charge an onboarding fee to owners who are looking to hire us to rent your property, or if you have a good tenant who pays rent on time. What we've started to do is charge a $500 fee up front to help people who are dealing with delinquent tenants. The way I look at this is we are far cheaper than an attorney would charge to try to negotiate this on your behalf. And so if you are dealing with late payments, if that's the reason why you're coming out up to us, and we are going to be spending the time and energy investing into getting this tenant to hopefully start paying on time, then we do charge $500 up front. The key with this is if we can't get the tenant to start paying on time, we waive the money, we return it to you at no cost. So $500 is just for us to spend that time and effort. If we don't succeed, you get the money back. Leasing fee. So leasing fee, not including lease extensions, is $1,200. We talk about it there. $100 renewal fee as well. So that would be if you want us to write a new lease agreement for the tenants. If they are just staying on, there's no compensation for special services. It's in the contract. I've never actually charged someone for this. Special services would be things like if you're building an ADU in the back of your home, and it's going to cost $300,000 and you want us to personally handle it for you. So you don't have a contractor. You want us to go to the city and get permits. You want us to go to the Home Depot and build with the architect and do those things. We do charge a 10% fee if it's $10,000 or more. If you have a contractor who's doing a kitchen remodel and you're handling the kitchen remodel itself, we don't charge you a fee. Like I said, I've never charged anyone the 10% fee, but it is there. Other times that we could potentially be involved in, again, I've never charged a $200 per hour fee, would be, let's say, if we're showing up to court for an eviction or something like that. Again, we've dealt with evictions before. I've never had to show up to court, but that would be an extraordinary cost because we're actually going to court for you on your behalf. Inspections. We do not do inspections without your permission. The reason for that is if we do inspections, there may be things that we find that you are going to be responsible for fixing. If we go there and we see and the tenants inform us because we are now doing the inspection that 3 of the electrical outlets are not working, we are then required to fix those things. That's a habitability issue. Now, that's why we always ask the owners, if you as a landlord, if you want us to do this inspection. And so if you want an inspection, it is $200 per time we do an inspection. We'll do as many as you want. But again, just be aware that if we go to the property, tenants will bring things up to us that at that point could be a liability to you because now that you have that information. And again, it says habitability, lease compliance, general cleanliness, and things like that. Affiliates, this is something I'm really proud of. We do not collect any kind of commissions or any profit from any kind of other organizations. We charge you $149 a month or $219 a month. We don't make a dime off of anything else. So we don't collect anything from maintenance contractors or insurance or anything like that from you. Collections, not something we do. Again, more of a general contract stipulation here. If you want to retain us as the person who does the collections for you, meaning going to court, filing for this, it's way easier and way cheaper if you go with someone else, we would charge 35%. No partners. We are not partners in this. I'm your property management company, meaning we are not buying this property together. We are doing separate services here. Termination. So we do have a 1-year term on this because contracts should have a term. However, and it says here that it'll last for 30 days. However, you can cancel. It says right here, either party may terminate this agreement if other breaches this agreement and fails to cure within 30 days after being requested to do so by the other party. Some of the ways that this can happen is if we have a maintenance request that you are not handling, like let's say it's a mold issue and it's becoming worse and worse, and we've informed you multiple times and you're saying, nope, I don't have the money for it. We have to cancel the management agreement because it's a liability for us. We have to get rid of those habitability issues and those liabilities. So that's really what it would be, and you can cancel with us at any time. We also, just a reminder, give you a money back guarantee. So if the owner is not satisfied for any reason during the first 90 days, owner may cancel the agreement by notifying the management company in writing within the 90 days of the agreement, allowing 15 days to close out accounting, marketing, tenant notifications, and things like that. So it also says here that we need a 30-day notice. The reason why we need a 30-day notice, if we have not provided the level of service that you want, we will cancel as soon as possible. But there is times where we're holding the rent, we have security deposits, we have to close out the account. So we can't just do it same day. It does take a little bit of time. Typically, we can do it in 3 to 4 days. Termination of sale. If you sell the property, obviously we are no longer be the management company. It's not binding to the property itself. It's binding to you. If you go bankrupt and you no longer own the property, then we can terminate as well. I want to make sure I balance time frame because I know I've been holding you guys for a while. So owner's obligation and representation. So let us know if the property is going into foreclosure. It kind of says if there's any unsafe or uninhabitability conditions. If you are in bankruptcy or things like that, let us know. Again, we don't ask for your driver's license here or the power of attorney, but it is things that if things come up, we do want to make sure that we have. HOA rules and regulations is a very good thing for you to start finding now as we become your property management company, because if you live in the HOA, we do want to send that over to the tenants. Kind of go through this. Insurance and indemnification. A lot of people ask me about this. We do ask that all landlords have $1 million of liability coverage. Now, we put this in there because I don't want you to be sued for whatever reason and for you to come back to me and say, Steven, you never told me how much insurance I should have. I'm telling you, whether you hire us or you hire another management company, it's $1 million. Your property is located in California. It's the most litigious landlord tenant law state in the country. $1 million is what you should have. You can have that through your homeowners insurance and then an umbrella policy. It's fairly cheap to do. An umbrella policy is probably $400, $500 a year, and then you can have like $1 million of coverage very cheap. That's my recommendation. Do we verify that every one of our landlords has $1 million of coverage? We do not verify those things, but it is, again, it's something that we strongly recommend. I'm going to go through and see if there's anything else that we have lots of questions on. Again, if I'm going through too quickly here, you guys can always call and ask these questions in detail. Okay, it looks like we're doing good. So last page, second to last page, is the property protection of the SureVestor plan. So we do send this out to you when you first reach out to us. So it is loss of rent up to 25 weeks of loss of rent, $5,000. And again, that's up to $3,000. So 25 weeks of loss of rent for different reasons. So some of them are like 4 weeks for skipped rent. Some of them are 25 weeks. I think 25 weeks is if the tenants were like killed in the property, murdered. There's some serious situations. Most of the time, the insurance covers you up to 12 weeks, which is typically how long an eviction takes. So 12 weeks, up to $3,000 each and every month, and $5,000 in eviction coverage, which is ironically about how much an eviction costs in California. $600 in sheriff fees, because we have to have the sheriff fees come out and clear your home and actually claim that it is now yours again. $35,000 in coverage from tenant-caused damages. Malicious damage in California would be considered something you'd file a police report on. So it is not dirty homes. It is not paw prints. It would be like someone taking a sledgehammer to your countertops or stealing items. And it kind of talks about that $15,000 in theft or damage related to theft. So they steal your washer, dryer, any items. It's $15,000 in protection from that. And then $1 million of coverage for third-party claims. Third-party claims, think about them like contractors and vendors like that. And then once we get to that, all that's left to do is for me to sign and then for you guys to sign. Hope this helps you know a little bit more about our management agreement, why it is so important that you see clarity. I like to do this, and I love when owners call and ask us questions. My goal always is to come into a mutual agreement with clarity. And that way that our entire relationship as property manager and landlord is clear and we have no confusion, rather than someone just quickly going over this. So if you made it this far into the video, I applaud you. Thank you so much. We look forward to serving you soon. Thank you. Have a great day.